One of the great things you can do when it's a bit wet and can't do much in the mudder is propagating your own seeds and allowing it to go through the germination process and growing your own seedlings. So what we got here, and we're not sponsored by anybody, so these are just products that we get from the shop. But part of my huapare kore kaupapa is I'm looking for the quality of our materials. So for this part of it, notice how finer the seed mix is for planting out. And so you've got perlite in there, you'll have different fertilizers that's in there as well, organic fertilizers, which is, if you ever notice that little red one there, and so they release the kai out. The perlite leaves air pockets so the soil can breathe. And so what I've done is I've taken out my mix out of my bag and then just leveled it off on my containers here. I've then not moisturised them, I've then watered them. I've then watered them in order to allow, rather than being all dry, because this is dry material, and then I'll plant my seeds. So I've gone through and made a little hole in each tub where I'll plant my seeds in. Then I'll cover it over, water it down, and then I'll place it over on the other side. And I've got another tray over here. So what I tend to do is I will, for example, I'll bring one up as an example. So here's an example of some work that I did on the 4th of the 12th last year, and it's giving me some information. So I've sourced some seeds to plant out on that date, and obviously you know that it's a carrot. The 4th of the 12th is when I planted it. It takes 21 to germinate. In other words, until it pops up out of the ground, you'll see a little tupu that'll come through. And then to harvest time on these particular carrots, it was 115 days. So by the time from 21 days popping up to 115 days marking out when we should be able to pick them. Now through that period there, you'll also be able to do baby carrots, or if you're wanting carrots in your salad and so forth, you can get some nice young ones. But in regards to your full mature carrot, then it's roughly a 115 days period. So that's how I record what's in my punnet. So I will make this up, particularly if I'm planting out, and I'll just place it into my container like that. And I'll either do it in a way where it's the whole tray or each punnet. And in this case, because I'm doing 4 trays, I'll plant out 4 different ones. So that's how I record, that's the way I do it, that's how I record what's in there. So all you're doing is identifying the vegetable, you're identifying the date that you planted it, the germination date, and then harvest time. So this process of understanding when you're wanting it. So for another example, and this comes back to our kumara kōrero. If you're wanting kumara at a particular time of year, or potatoes at a particular time of year, or in this case carrots, you think of when you want to have it. So let's use Matariki or Christmas or Easter as some calendar events that you may want to harvest some vegetables. So therefore you use that date as your starting date, and then backtrack to when you need to find that date. So for example, last year I planted out some potatoes, and I wanted Christmas potatoes, and generally potatoes take between 100 to 120 days, the type that I was planting. So the 120 was here. I planted them on a certain date, and I was utilising Christmas as the date when I want to harvest. So this date became the 25th of August. That was from the 25th of August to the 25th of December was 120 or 120 days, 110, 120 days period. So that meant that I needed to plant out my potatoes at that particular time. So in relationship to looking after the ground and preparing your garden, then you work back from that date. So if it's going to take you a month to get your garden bed ready, then that means you need to start your garden in July in that process. If you're doing what we've been doing in regards to composting as part of that process, because what I'm trying to do is feed the soil and get the microorganisms and the worms and the fungi active, then you may want to start 2 or 3 months earlier. What I tend to do is I utilise matariki as my starting point in relationship to the calendar year for soil and ground preparation, and then progress forward from there. So these 3 dates are quite crucial in relationship to your harvesting, when it pops through. In other words, the shoots come up, the tupu come up, and your planting date. They all kind of work in synergy together. So planting your seeds, seed germination, crop rotation, it all revolves around this particular process here. Okay. So that's what we've done. Is we've got our trays ready. We've got a sourced seedling mix, which is from a reliable supplier. They're well known across the country. I know where they get from. You can also go to garden centres and get these by the trailer load, which most commercial guys do, or they make their own. But because I'm only doing them in trays, 4 lots of trays at a time, I just get a couple of bags at a time as I need them. Then you go to, and we've talked about this before, but you go to your seeds, and as I've mentioned before, I like this brand, and I'm pretty okay with what's the other brand I like. These ones, the Gregor's ones, are okay too. I don't mind them. But what I may do in this lot is I've got some. Let's take a bag. Let's go around and look at this. I've got the other side of the seed space is I'm looking at. We've got some organic growers up here, Māori growers, and we're working through seed banks. As I mentioned, I'll just show you my own situation here. Last season we harvested some seeds, and so I've got them in here. I've got pumpkins, spring onions, tomatoes, and a whole range of other seeds that we've kept, and I've planted those out in that other location. Here on this particular packet, what you're looking for is some information about what's going on and help you out. So here, some lovely information. Caring for your seeds, germination process, as we see on here, 7 to 14 days. Pretty much they are standard right across so I tend to go to 14 days, so 2 weeks to germinate, and then I'll spend a month before I can plant them out. In here you've got a coloured diagrams to allow you to get an idea when to plant this particular ones, and these are beans, I believe, dwarf beans. And then some nice information around your process and time to harvesting. So you've got your 14 days for germination, and then over here you've got 8 to 9 weeks to harvest. What it needs in regards to your environmental conditions, so I wouldn't plant these under the trees because they need sun. How deep you do it, spacing, and what I tend to do in regards to planting out is I tend to ignore the spacing because I'm wanting a kind of a forest type of fixture, but that's what you're kind of looking at. Finding a crop. Here's another different way of looking at it. great information on the back, how to go about planting out seasonal areas, when it's good to grow, and you go online and find out other information that you need to. Watties, I believe, is it Watties? Hang on a minute, I think it's Watties. They have a good annual calendar that you can use for getting an idea of how the seasonal. So these ones here are watercress. So again, more information on the back. So read the packet and what you're wanting to grow. Look at these ones, tomatoes. So here's some tomato ones. 17 to 19 weeks to full maturity. They need a full sun. So you don't want to plant those under trees. You want them to give the trees sunlight as much as possible. But you could, this idea of companion planting, or thinking about how you're going to work your vegetables together, is the Indian people in the Americas call the planting method called the Three Sisters, where they would plant your tomatoes and then they'd put your beans down, and then put squash or pumpkin at the base of it. So they're utilising the growth of the tomatoes, and so 2 weeks later then you plant out your beans, and then the beans will climb up the trunk of the tomatoes, and then the squash or pumpkin at the base of it just suppresses the weeds along the bottom. The beans become a nitrogen fixer for the soil for your tomatoes, but yeah, that's another way of just thinking about how you might put things together. Tomatoes and basil go well together. Yeah. So let's have a look at what else it tells us about these. So again, you're looking at March, good time to plant in Northland, and then you're going to start planting these September, October, November, December. In colder climates, Ruapihu, the Central Plateau or the South Island, you would probably wait till it's a little bit warmer. Yeah, so harvest time 17 to 19 weeks. So again, when are you wanting them? Start counting back. And germination, I'm just trying to read here. Yep, 14 to 21 days. So this is a little bit longer. So if you're going to want to have some in December, and then you know it's going to take roughly 19 weeks to become harvest time. So you count back from December, 19 weeks, and then 21 days back from that in regards to the germination process from here, then that gives you your timeline and your schedule of when you're needing to plant out. So what I will be doing for my seedlings is actually I will probably start planting some tomatoes, because it's going to take me another month, which gives me into September, before, well, I may wait a week. So I'm just trying to think from where I'm at now. So we're in the beginning of August, the second month of our winter period, or last month of our winter period. Spring here in our part of the world starts in September, so September is our spring period. Yeah, so we could say in a week's time plant these out, these tomatoes, and it's going to be 21 days time they'll be ready to be transplanted, which is September, and then we're going to have 19 weeks from there. So 4, 12, yeah, so you're getting into January next year, January, when they will come through to be ready for harvesting. Yeah, so actually now's the time. So what you could do is, if you had a greenhouse, you could plant those out now and put them into pots, bigger pots, from this process, once they're from seedlings, and then grow them until, so you can get some in a warmer summertime, so that Christmas time there. But anyway, that's an idea about it. It's just thinking about the timings of how you do things. So today I'm just going to plant out some seeds in here, and all I do is just put a couple of seeds in each hole, then cover the hole up, then give it a bit of a watering, and then I'll be putting it over on the other side. Okay, all right. I'll just do an update, and I might do one video where showing you how I'm doing it.